My name is Maya Milan Gonzalez. I'm calling in today from the land of the Chumash and the Tonga. I am an ensemble member with Teatro Luna West and an artistic associate with Milagro.
And my name is Jose Gonzalez, co-founder and executive director of Milagro. We thank you all for joining us for these important conversations today. This gathering is a collaboration between three companies: Milagro, Teatro Luna West, and UrbanTheater Company, members of a group known as Teatros Unidos, an emerging and growing collective of teatros and theaters of color.
And for those of you who don't know, it was during the early stages of the pandemic that my father reached out to a handful of teatros to come together, to create community, to share resources, and to collectively figure out, how are we going to survive this moment? So we began meeting, and from those meetings, 8 of us companies came together. We co-produced this last fall the Ingenio New Play Development Festival, featuring 6 new scripts. And one of those scripts was City Without Altar by Jasminne Mendez, which was presented by Teatro Luna West. And with the support of the National New Play Network Bridge Program, Milagro, Teatro Luna West, and UrbanTheater Company have been able to come together to continue to support Jasminne's play. Through our collaboration, we arrived at taking the first steps to begin a collective healing process for our Latine theater community. So, on behalf of Milagro, Teatro Luna West, and UrbanTheater Company, we would like to welcome you all to our virtual summit on unlearning and imagining.
The work of today falls into 3 categories: Converge, Renew, Commit. Following this morning's Converge panel, we welcome you to attend one of our Renew healing sessions led by Melissa Dupre and Nisha Modi that began at 1:30 Pacific time. At 3 p.m. Pacific time, we have the Commit session, which offers summit participants a space to reflect on learning, honor feelings, and share commitments. And at 4:15 Pacific time, we invite you to join us for a virtual reading of City Without Altar by Jasminne Mendez and directed by Simone Emmett.
And so while this event right now is being live streamed, the rest of the day, friends, will be on Zoom. So if you haven't registered, but you would like to attend some of the Commit sessions, the Renew healing sessions, or the virtual reading of City Without Altar, check the comment sections for Zoom links. And in fact, we welcome you, whether you're watching right now from YouTube or Facebook, to join in the conversation by engaging in the comments and chats, because we want to hear from you. We want to have this be a very open discussion. Now, I'm sure you're all tired of this endearing father-daughter duo, but we're going to get onto the show, right, Dad?
Right.
So it felt right for this type of gathering at this moment in this beautiful gathering of our Latine theater community to begin with a little ritual. So I am now going to we are going to actually pass this floor over to one of my favorite people, my pareja from all the way on the other side of the world, Latine Valdez, who's going to lead us in a blessing.
Hello. Good morning.
Hey, Latine, you're muted. Beautiful.
Hey, we're all used to it at this point. You know, technical glitches are just par for the course. But I was saying it's just so wonderful to actually be here, part of this wonderful gathering of our family, theater family from around the country, sharing space and being able to invoke the power and the creator in us all to get things started. My name is Latine Mendez. I know quite a few of you. We've met in the past. We've shared some space before, and it's just so lovely to be able to do this with you here on this platform. One of the big things about our ability to be together in a shared space, especially as theater creators, is the chance to be able to see each other face to face. And unfortunately, even though we can't do that in a physical space just yet, we're getting very close. I've still discovered that it's possible for us to connect in this way, just by acknowledging each other's presence in the space, particularly this digital realm. But a way to do that is to just give ourselves the opportunity to be able to see each other here, but then also share something much more profound, much more spiritual, and that is something that requires a journey within. And to be able to really take in our surroundings, to be able to be receptive, and to be able to communicate that to all the people who are participating in this summit. So with that, I just wanted to take a moment to do something that we typically do in a space, whether it be a workshop space, a theater space, or a room where we converge, is just to take a moment to really visualize the circle. If we were all together in the physical space, we would be able to hold hands and really share the circle, because the circle is symbolic of not only our unity and our ability to create in our collaborative space, but our balance. There's no hierarchy in a sphere. So all of us are part of this process of taking the reins and being leaders and guiding each other in that space. So really important for us to do that before we get started. So I have my sage, and part of this tradition that I grew up with, and a lot of us have grown up with in different regions of the country, and it's really just an acknowledgement of the four directions, basically all our four limbs. If we were doing theater games, we'd be stretching together, we'd be breathing together, and that's just part of it. So I'm going to light my sage. If you have your sage, or if you have something that you want to use just to create a bit of a burning of the natural elements, or anything at all that you want, Palo Santo or sage, or nothing at all, I will send from here, from my vantage point, some of this wonderful, beautiful sage to get things going and just to get started. So just for a moment, if you can visualize, take a moment. You can close your eyes if you'd like, and just take in all of this sage, take in the energy that surrounds you, be receptive. We want to invoke the creator in us all, to give us the ability to do important work, to find unity, to find strength in each other, and to give us the ability to be able to continue to move forward with strength, with presence, with creativity. So burning this sage here in my home, I'm sharing it with you, and I just want to first acknowledge each of the four directions. So just take a moment, close your eyes and breathe. Imagine you receiving some of this amazing sage smoke. And everybody just take a deep breath in and out. Take another deep breath in and out. Consider all of our ancestors, all of our co-workers, all of our fellow human beings in this world looking for healing, looking for creativity, looking for action. Find that positivity and that force of life that's in every single one of us. I got it really smoky now. Beautiful. So I know where I am according to each direction. If you want to follow along, that's fine. But what I've already acknowledged is that for me, the west is in this direction, the east is behind me, the north is to my right, and the south is to my left. So as we go into each four directions, I'm just going to invoke a little prayer. So to the direction of the east, Great Spirit who comes out of the east, come to us with the power of the east. We are thankful for the light of the rising sun. Let there be light on the path we walk. Let us remember to be thankful that you gave us the gift of a new day. Oh. And now we turn to the south, which is in this direction. We are thankful for sending us warmth and soothing winds from the south. Comfort us and caress us when we are tired, when we are cold. Unfold your gentle breeze. And as you give to all the earth your warm, moving wind, give us warmth. And remember to be grateful so that we may be close to you. And to the great life-giving spirits, we face the west, the direction of sundown. Let us remember every day the moment we will come when our sun will go down. Never let us forget that we must fade into you. Give us beautiful color. Give us the great sky for setting so that when it's time to meet you, we come with glory. And to the north, which is this direction for me, Great Spirit of love, come to us with the power of the north, make us courageous when the cold winds of life fall upon us. Give us strength and endurance for everything that is harsh, everything that hurts, everything that makes us squint. Let us move through life ready to take what comes from the north. Oh. And above, Great Spirit of the sky, lift us up to you so that our hearts may worship you and come to you in glory. Hold in your memory that you are the creator, greater than we, eager for life and a good life. Let everything that is in this world lift our minds and our hearts and our lives to you. Oh. Okay. We thank you. We thank you for this opportunity to be together, to share space, to be vessels for your creative energy and spirit. Give us the ability to be rooted, to be powerful, to have strength in our times of weakness, and to be able to one day see each other face to face again. Thank you. And thank you all for allowing me to have this opportunity. Thank you to Teatro Luna. I am a great fan, and I am honored to be here today to share this space with all of you. Let us have a wonderful day. Let it be productive. Let it be creative. Let it be full of drive and spirit and strength. And at this point, I am going to pass it on to Elizabeth Burungay for land acknowledgement.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Nungaray, and I am so thankful to be here and share space with you all. And thank you, Latine, for that beautiful blessing. And I want to begin by first doing a quick grounding exercise as a reconnection to the earth. And I just also want to acknowledge is to move stagnant energy into movement and to make room to catch the lessons and the learning for today. So I invite you all to take a moment and just see where you're seated. seated, and just feel how your feet rest on the floor, how you connect with the ground. And I'm just going to invite you for a quick breath, right? I'm going to do a little countdown. So breathe in with me for 3, hold for 3, and then we're going to count down for 3. Yeah? Okay. So breathe in, hold, exhale. One more time. Breathe in, hold, exhale. And one more time, because we believe in the power of 3, right? And breathe in, hold, exhale. All right, thank you all. So we want to acknowledge and begin this beautiful session, this beautiful day, by acknowledging that the land that we live on, the land that we have stepped on for the last however many years on earth, right? We want to acknowledge that we live on stolen land, built by stolen people, right? I want to acknowledge that I'm calling in from the south side of Chicago, the land of the Potawatomi nations, the Miami, the Ojibwe tribes, and the Odawa tribes. Also acknowledging that from Teatro Luna, we have a space in Boyle Heights, and that is a land of the Chumash and the Tongva. And I want to acknowledge the Indigenous people as long-standing occupants and caretakers of a particular land or region. And then we also do land acknowledgement to offer respect for the enduring relationships that exist between occupied land and traditional territories. We do a land acknowledgement not as an act of mourning, but as an activation to support land back actions. And we must ask about the power of art spaces to decide who is included in the first place. So even as we begin this session, who is included? Who is being called in, right? It is important to understand the history of the lands we occupy and our places within that history. Colonialism is not a thing of the past, but is an ongoing process, and one that many people around the world continue to participate in and be subjected to. The United States is a product of settler colonialism, where people move permanently into a place and develop a new and distinct culture, but only through intentional displacement via the lens of white supremacy, and most times, eradication of indigenous peoples and cultures. A land acknowledgement is meant to bring awareness to these dynamics, to urge people and individuals into a group reflection, and to center and honor indigenous peoples in future relationships with and on these lands. Even as our occupied space in Boyle Heights is part of the ongoing colonial practice of displacement, we also need to acknowledge that as art makers, sometimes we are the bridge between gentrification and displacement of people who have already existed on that land, right? And how colonialism also honestly, it just evolves like anything else. From gentrification to displacement, it's alive and well. From gentrification to settler mindset in Palestine to what has been the ethnic cleansing in Haiti, right? We also need to acknowledge that as a part of our practice in arts, we need to acknowledge those power dynamics in play, right? When we stand in solidarity and encourage all of us to take actions by pushing back against the gaslighting media narrative. We are grieving, but we do not grieve alone. We're with you, we see you, and by seeing, you need to acknowledge it as well and do something about it, because we have been here before. And if your grief is laced with rage, that is exactly how it should be. Your rage carries information and power. So feel a surge in your veins, let your fists clench, then move or scream or write. Your rage is telling you that you have a role to play to end this hate and how our country responds to it. I invite you to breathe, because the labor is long and we need you to last. So take care of your body and breathe before you push. And remember that when we talk about Indigenous people, it is not about in the past. It is a present, it is a future, and we cannot create a just future without including Indigenous people, Indigenous rights, right? So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm going to pass it over to Alex.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I love that. Yes, righteous rage. We all have different paths in this work, but you laid it out so beautifully, my friend, my sister, my colleague. Thank you. I hope you're able to stay and join us and contribute to the conversation if you like. All right. Deep appreciation. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
All right. I want to bring up Miss Miranda Gonzalez. Hello. How are you doing?
Hey, hi. Hello, everyone.
Let's take that breath one more time. We're finally starting the Converge component of today. Miranda, can I ask you to just set us up? Give us some framing. Why are we here? What are we talking about today?
Oh,
give it to
pressure. I didn't write anything. And
even better.
I mean, this is just going to come straight from the heart. But a lot of what we're doing today and what we're talking about today is really coming together in a restorative way to talk about the ways that we as leaders have harmed, and in the ways that we move through the world to restore relationships within that. That's my daughter in the background. I have 3 children. I'm going to name that now, and they will be in and out because that is how they function. And the teenager has no idea that this is a live stream. I'm so sorry. It's fine, baby. Anywho, we really want to talk about that, and we really want to have candid conversations with one another and within our community as we take spaces and hold spaces for people within our sphere, for artists that we work with, and for the folks that we want to continue to be rooted in this movement with together. Right, we're fully aware that there are our own healing that has to happen in order for us to be the best leaders in the best spaces, or I should say the best leaders that we can be, or the fullest amount of leaders that we can be. So I'm going to pass it over to Alex. I want to thank everybody for coming here. I love and adore this panel, and I feel really privileged to be in a room with everyone. And I'm so grateful for those of you who are tuning into this first part of our summit today. So
yes, thank you, Miranda. I will say we hopefully Yura Sapi will be dropping in as they can. They are in Colombia. Things are a little hectic. The internet is not safe, and the protests continue. So I'll just name that. Really important. Hopefully we get their voice in here. So I want to throw it to our panelists. Y'all are fantastic. Y'all are just moving the form and the field. And I want to celebrate that. But I also want to get to know you a little better within the context that Miranda just gave for us. So if I can toss it over to y'all, if you can do some self-introductions, let us all get to know you a little better, and try to keep it under 90 seconds so we can go a little deeper throughout our conversation. Is it all right if I start with our director of City Without Altar, Simone? Can I throw it to you first? All right.
Hey. Thank you, Alex, and thank you all for just making this space and for having us, for having me. My name is Simone Emmett, she, her, currently repping the Bay Area of California, along with my man over here, Sean San Jose. But yes, over here in the Bay Area, I live in San Francisco, originally from Dallas, Texas. So in my heart, I rep Texas. And I call myself a Tejana, Afro-Tejana, Afro-Latina, Blaxican, Mezcla. Those are my identities. That is my heart. Those are my people. I am a director, and I am a performer and educator from UT Hookham, all my theater educators from out there. But yeah, just coming at this with so much love and gratitude for all the performers. They've got something really beautiful. These actors have really prepared something gorgeous for you all today. With the writing of the lovely and genius Jasminne, thank you so much for your work, and just sending you so much gratitude. I don't know if I should send it over to someone, but if I can, or I should, I will send it to Jasminne.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you, Alex, for having me and inviting me, and for championing and supporting City Without Altar from its wee baby inception back in 2018. So yes, I'm Jasminne Mendez. I live in Houston, Texas. I guess I'm a native Texan now. I've been in Texas for over 23 years, but originally I'm a military brat. So as I like to say, I am from everywhere and nowhere all at once. She, her, hers. I identify as Black, Latina, Afro-Dominicana. And I'm here in Texas. I'm a playwright, poet, spoken word artist, soon to be kidlit author, and mother of little Luz Maria, who is my light, and she is everything and the reason I function and get up in the morning. So I'm just really lucky and blessed to be here. I'm excited to share this new rendition of City Without Altar with the world. The actors brought me to so many tears last night in their final rehearsal. And so they really have worked really hard to prepare something really special. And I couldn't be more excited. Just a brief history. This work came out of, my own struggles with trying to heal my own anti-Blackness within myself, the journey that I am still on, and I'm continuously questioning and interrogating and trying to dismantle my own internalized anti-Blackness. This is something that is very prominent in the Dominican community, unfortunately. And so I wanted to work through that, and I wanted to understand that the root, where it came from. And so this is an exploration of that, as well as a tribute to my ancestors and to all of the grandparents and great grandparents that are no longer with me and that I will never know and don't have a record of. It is my way to try to have their voices be heard and amplified and archived in some small way. So thank you. And I will pass it to Esteban, who is snapping and whose curls are on fire today.
Oh, thank you, my curl diva, my only curl diva. Oh my goodness. Thank you for that. My name is Esteban Andres Cruz, and I'm building a line of women's lingerie. And before you, Andres, Esteban Andres. And I'm an artist. I've got many hats. I act, I sing, I dance, I direct, I write, I choreograph. I do a lot of things, but I also am a healer, and I'm here for that. I am here. I discovered not too long ago, a few years ago, that all of my core values distilled down to one essential one, which is love. And I find that all of my actions, if I can root them back to love, then I can do no wrong. And that's been my guiding principle. So I am here because, like all of us, we've been through trauma through the past year, compounding traumas. And for what I want to just invite into the space right now is to say that our reaction to trauma and our journey on healing is going to be as wide and varied as we are. So whereas I could not do a Zoom reading because it made me feel like, but I miss theater and I'm going to cry. For people, a lot of people needed the Zoom readings in order to get that spiritual enlightenment that we need from theater. So just to bring that into the space, that we all have different ways that we cope and that we heal. And I'm here to learn more of all of those ways from all of you and to share what I've learned, and really not here to answer any questions or fix the problem or figure it out in one day, but I want to live in the question. So thank you all for bearing that with me. And I'm going to pass it to David, my hair family.
Thank you, Esteban. Hi, y'all. Thank you so much to Alex, Miranda, Maya, and everyone for putting this together and for the invitation to just share this digital space with you all. Big fans of everyone here in this room, those that I know and those that I don't know yet. So I'm excited to share this space. My name is David Francisco Mendizabal, and it is David. It's spelled David, but it is David. It's spelled like David, actually. I am a director and a designer and a producer. I think in this past year, I've really started to identify as an artist, thanks to a couple of opportunities that I've had. I am an Aquarius, which means I feel everything and nothing at the exact same time. And I am a middle child. I have two sisters. So yes, middle children, yes. I am still using he, him pronouns out of habit. I'm on a gender journey, and I feel good with that right now, today. But you can use whatever pronouns. Just call me David. Yeah, I think this year, you know, I want to thank the facilitators at Radio Caña Negra for teaching me a word, ubícate. And I think this year has really been about locating myself, and this invitation to be a part of a panel to begin to explore what healing looks like, both personally and as a community, has really started with that personal self journey. So I'm here as a listener and a messy person trying to figure out a messy world and a messy field. And I love what Esteban, you said, you know, leading with love. It's something that I am working to really keep in my actions. And it is a value that I try to live every day. And sometimes I fail. And I wake up the next day and I try again. So I'm thankful to be here. And I will pass it on to Sean.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, everyone. Shit, this is just the intros. I'm already open. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alex, Imaija, OG, Jose, and beautiful Manito Latine for that incredible blessing. And what Elizabeth did with the land acknowledgement, I mean, this is the kind of shit that we need to institute when people, especially white institutions, are rotely going through a thing that has no meaning to them, and that we've come to understand as a way of introducing ourselves as to move on from the thing. But the teeth you put into that, Elizabeth, I mean, say that shit and say that at every event that we do, if we're going to do it. And I thank you for that. And thank you for also opening my head up to that. And thank you, Miranda. Thank you, everyone, just the panelists. I'm already open, like I said. And my name is Sean San Jose. The pronouns I use are any and all that make you feel comfortable, make me feel comfortable. I'm from San Francisco, so anything and everything makes me feel comfortable, like the Floater song. So I'm here in San Francisco, Frisco, San Pancho, San Francisco de Califas de Aztlán. Get to say that in the brown room together. And it is the land teefed from the Ohlone, the Pomo, the Miwok peoples. And we live in this land here, and I'm very proud to be here and hopefully do some of the things like Jasminne was saying about our grandmother's voices and stories and histories, figure that out, share that. I work with a group called Campo Santo. We've been creating new works for people of color, by people of color, for a minute now. We will continue to do that in any way we can. And then I'm also lucky that to say that I just got appointed the artistic director, and I will say that, of Magic Theater, which is one of our big institutions out here in Frisco. So we all about to eat, people. So if you haven't been to Frisco, you better get ready to pack your bags to come to Frisco. And if you're in the Bay, we're opening the goddamn doors up, and it's going to be a POC power move. We're taking over, people, centering ourselves rightfully. Everyone eats. So that's what we're doing. I'm just happy to be in a room full of gente. And thank you again, Alex. And I pass the mic back at 98 seconds. Back to you.
He was clocking it. I love it. Listen, I just want to pause for a moment on the idea that your introduction as the AD to a historically PWI is we are all going to eat. I just can we just have a moment, folks? That's how we do it. That's what change is about, right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Miranda.
Alex, I just realized that you and I didn't introduce ourselves. Whoops. So for Alex, I will introduce Alex because Alex is one of my lovely colleagues that I have worked with for too many years. And Alex is the executive director and artistic director over at Teatro Luna. And I have the privilege of facilitating many conversations that deal around decolonization and anti-racism within predominantly white institutions, as well as within our own folks and our own people throughout the nation. And so I feel really, really lucky to have these conversations with her and also have honest ones about where it is that we've experienced trauma and where it is that we have perpetuated it. And as people who are leading an organization, right? I always hesitate to use that language. Alex and I also both do, only because when you worked in a decolonized space, shared power is what is centered, rather than, oh, it's all about me, or, you know, centering what I think or what my vision is. So holding space is preferred, right? We do that. And I was a founding ensemble of Teatro Luna, so I do want to name that, and experience a lot of trauma within that ensemble for many, many years that took me a very long time to heal from. So I just wanted to name that in the room as well and be as vulnerable as possible. And at the same time, I love and adore my colleague, Alex Meda. So thank you for staying up late with me all the time and working through whatever shit it is that I have to work through. And all the while you're tired after a whole full 16 hours of work. So I love you. You are amazing. And I have seen you grow in ways that most people shy away from throughout their years. So the evolution of you has been a gift to me. So I just want to say that.
Oh man, Miranda, she went there. So I'll go there too. Thank you, Miranda. You are one of my not just favorite, but most trusted colleagues. And I want to say it is you who really taught me the meaning of grace. I want to say that first and foremost. And it is you who taught me that we have to come as humans first to this work, that this professionalism, that this idea of what is the right way, of what is going to get us ahead, can we connect as humans? And Miranda, you got a special gift to connect with people as humans, to uplift them, to see them, to support them, and also to help them grow. So to see you grow into being the amazing director you are, the amazing facilitator you are, the healer you are, has been a personal gift and a treasure. And I love that you just went out right out and said it, y'all. Like, we have experienced harm. We have harmed each other. We have experienced trauma from a different power dynamic, but we did not leave. Right? We did not leave the field. We did not leave our commitments. We figured out a way through. So that's going to help me transition to my first question for Simone and Sean before they have to leave us today. But to finish, I just want to say, Miranda, if you want to find out more about her, she's the artistic director of UrbanTheater Company in Chicago. Please check out the fine work that she's doing along with Ivan Vega and Tony Bruno. Miranda's a mom. Miranda's a facilitator who works with the Nova Collective, and she also has her own consultancy. I mean, there's a million more things, Miranda. You're a writer. You just got named from the Los Angeles Theater Center Latino Theater Company's Imaginistas, right? Anything else I got to add to your amazing resume?
Girl, who cares?
All right, fuck it. Keep it moving.
It never matters.
All right, listen, I just wanted to set some context of the multi-hyphenate world that we're in. So listen, Sean, Simone, you're at different stages of your career, so I love this. I want to hear a little bit about that intersection. When we talk about healing, when we talk about harm, when we talk about taking over, when we talk about the changes in the field, what does that mean to you? How are you navigating that? What are you learning? Like, share a little bit with us from that perspective.
Yeah, I'll just jump in briefly and say that as a woman of color I work in a predominantly white institution. And I think when I first went in, like 3 years ago, I found myself saying sorry a lot, apologizing for just like maybe overstepping or not knowing where my place was, or just like having so much doubt about myself. And in a way, I was kind of traumatizing myself. I was putting all this I was putting all this pressure on myself to live up to some imaginary standard or some imaginary, I don't know, thing that I thought that I had to be. And I think over the past even couple of years, maybe even this past year, where I've got to just sit, at home and incubate and, take, those first several months of being furloughed, working for an art institution or theater institution and not working, and just kind of sitting with myself and incubating and thinking about what do I want, not just for my career as a, mid to late 20s something person in the world, but like, what do I want as a human, and how am I going to navigate through this work, protecting my spirit and protecting my heart and like protecting my people. And so I made one commitment to myself for going into this next phase of my life after that incubation period. I feel like I still am kind of in this incubation period, but I'm just not saying sorry. Just moving through the world unapologetically, and like asking if I have made harm or if I have caused harm, or if, just kind of taking moments to pause, but not saying sorry for being present and not saying sorry for taking up space. Because I would find myself just kind of like sweetly, asking for permission or asking for when I can take up space, and consistently muting myself outside of Zoom, like IRL, muting myself for other people, because I felt like it wasn't my place sometimes in these institutions or in those rooms where I felt like I was smaller. And so I stopped saying sorry. Like I had to like really tell myself, Simone, don't you dare apologize for being present, and just had to take sorry out of my vocabulary. So I think that's a space that I'm in right now, is this incubation period of my career, trying to figure out, what is next for me, but like, how do I protect myself? And therefore, if I can protect myself, same thing like when we're on planes, right? You put on your own mask, you can protect those that you're looking after. How can I protect myself so I can continue to protect my people? That's sort of something I'm navigating right now and working through right now. And just not apologizing for taking space and for being present. So I can make space for others, right? I love what Sean said earlier, right? We all gonna eat. We're all gonna eat. So, let's cook. Let's go.
Before we throw it to Sean, I just want to say that we all will eat, this abundance, this idea that we all have power, no matter where on the spectrum. We also experience marginalization. Where can we move the thing forward in our power? So I think you've named that real clearly, Simone. Thank you. Miranda, do you have a specific question to ask, or should we just let Sean take it from there?
I want to hear what Sean has to say, because I feel like what I am really leaning into right now, and what I love is like the intergenerational, and just within our careers, right? The intergenerational evolution that happens, where, and what you said, and where they intersect. Sean, take it away. Yo quiero saber todo. Estoy esperando.
Gracias. Thank you, Simone, too, for that. It's beautiful. I was so struck in the introductions, and I feel like it's important to remind ourselves that Esteban had said everything, of all the list of things, it comes down to love. I think it's an important thing to voice and to remind ourselves of. Also to remind ourselves, in the face of change, in the face of harm, in the face of moving, in the face of empowerment, so much of the world takes our moves as aggressive moves. Our taking space is some sort of defense or confrontational shit. We come in the room loud. We offending you. We're taking up your shit. We're changing your game. No, it's not that. And so I think I say all that to say is that so much of outwardly what we do, what we say, how we sound, how we say it in the world gets echoed out. The white world gets echoed out as aggression or anti. So when I say something like my brother Roger Genvere Smith said to me when I told him about the gig, he said, it has to be a POC power move. And that's not to say we're going to put up gates and block Yura. No, that's to say that we are rightfully centering ourselves where we have rightfully been through our lineage, our entire existence. And so I just think it's important to remember, even when we have a discussion like this, outside in, it's looked as, What are we doing? What kind of strategizing are we doing? It's all about love. It's all about love. God is love, creator is love. There's power in love. That's where the moves are going to happen. And so the hate shit that happens, that's some Malcolm X stuff. That's the hate that hate made. We're only reacting to it and surviving. And thank goodness, like Jasminne said, we have grandmothers that have taught us how to survive in this country, in particular in this country, what we're talking about. So I say all that to say, like, the idea of harm and moving through it, for me, I think it's been since consciousness in a certain aspect, growing up in the States. Since consciousness, since you come 6, 7, 8 years old, you go to the school, they look at your name, they ask you to do the thing. And I'm old enough where we look down the thing, they say, where are you from? What are you? You white? You black? Are you other? And if you're not white, and if you're black or other, what the fuck is other, then you're a minority. Now you're telling a 6, 7-year-old kid that they're identifying themselves as a minority. So that shit went in my head without knowing it went in my head. Minority. I learned to read. I learned to understand words. Minor is less. Minor is not the major. Minor is underneath. Minor is at the bottom. Minor is less than. Minor lives down here. We are underneath. And all my world is telling me is completely the opposite. I come from a matriarchal family. I come from a huge family, Filipino and Puerto Rican. I got motherfuckers all over the globe. You know, I'm an islander, baby. I got people everywhere. So what is minor about that? I have a matriarch, a woman that leads other women that raises all these kids. Everywhere I look, I see brown, 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 black, 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 Asian, Asian, Asian. And then you're going to tell me when I walk into the school, into the institution, into the one place that gives us the stamp of approval, I'm a minority. I am less than. Everything that I come into the building with is less than someone else of a different phenotype, of a different culture, of a different background. I say all that to say on this soapbox of mine is that stuff gets taught early before you even know it's a lesson. And so that we go through the world and you go, yeah, I'm on some minority shit. Yeah, that's where we come up with the words that we come up with and that you can't say, but we can say because it empowers us. And so all these lessons that we learn in the schoolyards, in the street, in the muni, which is our bus, our public transport out here, those are all the same tools that you want to put into the stage, into the art, into the narrative. But it's that energy, that ethos, that sense of place and voice. And I think Simone has said it, and I think that's the key word to anything about change, anything about harm is place. Like Sun Ra said, space is the place. Place. We need to take place. We need to hold place. We need to open space. We need to give space. So that's what it is. And everything is about our place. In cities, our fucking cities, man. We built these fucking cities. Whether you're talking about Chicago or you're talking about San Francisco, we built these cities. And then everywhere you look, every corner you look around, they're trying to do everything in their power to destroy, to remove, to make pretty, to make new, to make silver, to make Jeff Bezos, to make Zuckerberg, all this bullshit. So we're supposed to forget about where we came from, but they don't understand the power of spirits and the power of ghosts. And so we're never going to go away. And so we're just going to hang around like a ghost. We're going to hang around and hang around and hang around. And then we have to take back the space. And wherever space we're in, even if we don't have space, we have to be at the rightful center of it. And when I say rightful center of it, I'm not talking about being on some navel gazing shit. I'm not talking about some self-centered shit. I'm not talking about some drawing a line shit. I'm talking about rightful center. Our stories are our lives, are our history, are our world. So why would that not be the first story we tell? And
Yes,
we have endless amounts of them. You feel me?
I have to say that out loud. Yes, yes, yeah. That's right. That's right. Yes. Oh my
The
gosh.
fuck eyes.
That's right. That is right. I know we're bringing back all the rest of the panelists on, but there was one thing that I wanted to really touch upon with Simone and with Sean is, have you perpetuated harm in the spaces you've been in?
I mean, I think that's a great question. I think these are the number 2, 3, 4 questions that we need to start doing with ourselves, because I think we live so long in what this sort of diatribe of what I said, that so much of that fuels our blood, like the taking and owning, and then we forget to look around. I forget to look around. I don't take stock enough. So I imagine the sinful part of it is I have probably done more harm than I am unaware of. And that's the part that will fuck with me. And that's the part that I have to get to in prayer, in whatever grounding I do. But yeah, I mean, but the beautiful part of it is that if you're in spaces, like Esteban said, that are centered in love, that are rooted in love, at least the possibility, the potential to get there, to the healing is there. I think the honesty has to be, if we don't keep it 100 in our own spaces, then how can we ever get to anything together? But I think that's such an important, it's almost more important in some ways, Miranda, than the other ones. Like, how do we empower ourselves too? Because if we break each other, how are we going to move forward? But I think it's a lot of self-analyzation, self-critique, self-psychologizing. It needs to happen, or for people like me in particular. Yeah. Thank you for posing that question and making me ponder it.
Yeah, and just to echo off of that, I think in response to this question about harm, I will say, I will be transparent and say that I just had a thought and I was sitting with it deep in my feelings, and then I done lost it. But I will say that you know, as a woman of color, I often don't take time to think about, I'll be transparent about that. I won't often take time to think about the moments that I have caused harm, because of the amount of harm that has caused to me. And I'm thinking about, I don't often take these moments to reflect about when are those moments when I am not taking the extra step, or I'm not thinking about how am I not doing the right thing, or how am I not taking care of my people, or protecting people in the space. And I will say that often, because I'm like, go, 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 go. I don't know if it's because of the institution I work with, or because I had to look at myself as an academic to like really try to get through college, or just try to work in these spaces that are built around practices around white supremacy. But I work in the space of urgency very often. And I know that is rooted in white supremacist culture. And so I will often like not sit in the moment, and not just be present, and just think of go, 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 go. And I'll forget to stop. And I think I often do work in the space of urgency. And I do realize that can be harmful. And I have recently discovered that and realized that when I was talking to a colleague about white supremacist culture and these things that are so deeply instilled in our practices as theater practitioners, and as humans, just trying to navigate through this world, trying to navigate through the city of San Francisco on the hustle, having 3 different jobs, and just go, 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 go. And we forget that we're navigating in this place and space of urgency, and thinking about working in a place of scarcity, and not thinking about the abundance that we have, and not sitting in the present. So I realized that I had recently had this discovery that, man, like I often navigate in this space of urgency, and not just living in the present, and not taking time to sit and just breathe, and sit and just be in existence with people. So that is something that I've noticed in places where I might have caused harm, because I am just in this go, 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 go mode, and not sitting down to just like sit in silence with someone, or ask, if they need a moment to just sit in that, and not think about what is the next thing that we have to do. What is the next thing that I have to do? I am a leader in a space. What is the next? Just shut all that off and just be present. and like let a conversation or a moment go where it needs to go based on what the needs are of the space. So I've like tried to take these steps of asking what access needs are at the top and like not making my agenda super tight to accommodate for like what people need and trying to be better about that. So that is a process, and that is something that we have to completely change. And yeah, it doesn't happen in a day. So fighting against those deep-seated, deep-rooted practices of white supremacist culture that has been deeply seated in us since we were kids, since we were in elementary school, since we were tiny ones. So it's work, and we have to just take those baby steps. I'm taking them.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Simone. I know you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
You have another rehearsal for a different show, so we're going to let you go.
Yeah.
But we'll catch you later at the reading tonight. Thank you so much for sharing all those gifts with us. And I saw your hand, Esteban. I'm going to toss. It seems like you wanted to build on that, and then I want to let you to Sapi do some self-introductions, and Miranda and I will keep it moving. So Esteban.
Thank you. And thank you both, Sean. Way to preach. Way to preach, man. Thank you. And Simone, I kind of wanted to jump in on what you said. I do want to answer your question, Miranda, about how I've harmed, because, honey, there is a list and we are working on it. Pero the first thing that I wanted to say about what Simone was saying about going into these predominantly white institutions and apologizing for yourself, the tools of the colonizer are not upheld alone by the powers that be. We also support it. And I found myself going into so many rooms and not explicitly apologizing for my existence, but I would be, because I've had a very good career. I've been in a lot of things and done a lot of fancy flobby-doos and thingy-poos and blobby-doos. And so like, it's been good. Pero I was usually the only brown person in the room. I was usually the only trans non-binary person. It was in some way like that. And I would be thankful. I would be so thankful. Thank you so much for, oh my God, thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful that I kept reinforcing that idea of gratefulness and greatness to affirm my lesser than status that Sean was talking about. So I had to first, before I can do the harm, take care of the harm, do the harm, take care of the ways in which I had put out harm, I had to go and dismantle those tools from my hands of reinforcing those ideas about whether I was brown or queer or cross-eyed and blind, whatever it was that I was is ingrained in my head to say that I was less than or not worthy of a thing. It was only in the past, like, say, 5 or so years, and when I started working with Lab, that I stepped into my own brilliance and stepped into my own divinity and stepped into my own power and said, wait a minute, I am grateful to be here. However, you're welcome. Because not only am I a part of the art that is being made, I am a major contributor to the art that is being made here. So, and you know, we've all been through the trauma of the last year, but I think also for theater artists, we felt specific, because let's just say it, COVID is racist against theater, period. I said it, done. So it hated us, and especially actors, when you feel like you have to go and fulfill a thing for somebody else. It was such a gift and such a blessing to know that me, as I am, who I am, without attaining anything from outside myself, was worthy enough. And then from that place is where I could step out and then be really reflective on the ways in which I'd harmed. Now, I was part of UrbanTheater at its inception a very long time ago, and I was a snot-nosed little shit that knew everything and could tell everyone everything, you know, not like humble and beautiful like I am now. Pero I was very arrogant. And I had very specific ideas about the ways that things, I mean, I still do, but now I listen more. And so I butted heads with somebody who was a leader there at the time, and we wanted to do a thing and have a show. And I was like, well, we need money. And they were like, well, I don't deal with money. And I'm like, but you have to. And like, and I did not, I wish that I could have handled myself better. In that situation. And I wish I could have acted with more grace. And that wish is something that, I mean, and that was what was it, 20 years ago, Miranda? I don't remember when we started, but it was a long time ago.
15 years ago. Yeah.
So it's been that long that I carry the lesson from that. It's a gift. Every fuck up is a gift. And it just takes time for you to know when to open up the package for the gift that it is. So I'm still opening. I just had my off-Broadway debut and I fucked up the same way. I was like, I wish I could have dealt with more grace. I wish I could have been, handled that. But I mean, mira, 18 Latinas in one dressing room. Come on. We're going to, halfway bitches. None of them was halfway. Everybody went all the way, motherfucker. So there was a lot to deal with. And I always wish I could go better. And I always wish that I could do better. So, and that's just one of the ways in which I know that I have put out harm, is not speaking up for myself, like Simone told us to do, and like how Sean amplified. And then also not holding space for others, knowing that we're all going through this thing, and having grace for people, knowing that we all will fuck up. And I think that if we can hold space for ourselves and space for others, where we allow fuck ups and we hope that it's an opportunity to learn and grow. Whereas I felt earlier that people could be disposable. People are not disposable. Every person you interact with in your life is a part of your life to the extent that they affect it and that you affect them. So if we treat people as disposable, we've lost out on a part of our own humanity. So there were many people in my life, in my career, that I was like, well, write them off, done with them, never talk to them because they're not worthy. And as soon as I dismissed their own humanity, a part of my humanity died. And as we move forward in this conversation, I want to introduce into the room the concept that trauma has a lasting. There is a great book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's about it's a neurologist, and he works with cognitive behavioral therapy. And when traumas are inflicted in early childhood, they stay lasting in the body, but not only ones that are inflicted upon you, but any traumas that you inflict on other people also can cause similar PTSD kind of side effects and later flashes. So traumas, whether you're acting them out or whether they are acted upon you, will have a long lasting impression of them. So we all on this motherfucking healing journey. And I'm gonna pass the baton. Thank you.
Holy crapola. I just felt like read for filth and also inspired. I'm going to drop the author and the name of the book for those who want to catch it. It's beautiful. But Yura, Sapi, it is time. We need to bring you in the space. Please do some self-introductions for us, and then we'll put another question out to the group.
Imanaja, Mashikuna, Alichishi, Nyukaka, Yura Sapi Mikani, Nyuki Choko, Kausani, Ishkai Chunga, Sokta Watata Charini, Nueva York Manda Mikani, Ecuador Suyu Manda Mikani, Colombia Suyu Manda Mikani. Hello, friends. How are you? Good afternoon. My name is Yura Sapi. I live in Nuki, Choco, Colombia. I'm 26 years old. I'm from New York. I'm also from Ecuador and Colombia. I have 3 citizenships. I'm an artist, activist, facilitator, educator, arts manager, healer. I run Advancing Arts Forward, which is a movement to advance equity, inclusion, and justice through the arts by creating liberated spaces that uplift, heal, and encourage us to change the world. And I also run, I'm the founder of Ballistical, an LGBTQ+ healing and art space that centers community across Latin America. The organization started in Bogota over a year ago. And through the pandemic, we've expanded, being an online organization serving community now across Latin America. I'm currently in Colombia, as I've said, not in Bogota. as I've moved to the Pacific coast, the Afro-Pacific coast of Colombia. Here in Nuquí, which is an incredible place, only accessible via boat or airplane. So we're currently in a national strike in Colombia, standing in solidarity with those who are protesting in the larger cities. That means also that we are experiencing the effects of a strike, so things aren't coming. They're also didn't come as much anyway, coming from a boat or a plane, and now they're even more expensive. So I'm doing some fundraising and efforts to give away some groceries and other projects coming in the works with community here. And so thank you for the grace joining via my phone. Wi-Fi maybe not great. Before I couldn't join because it's raining, but glad to be here. Thank you, everyone. Yupay Chani.
Thank you so much, Yura Sapi. I've had the privilege of working in spaces with them, and it is such an honor. I really am inspired by you constantly. You know, I never look at generational gaps as an excuse to listening and an excuse to not growing. And I started that practice many, many moons ago, and I have to say that I have learned so much from you. And I let us know how we can support as organizations here in your efforts and what you need, and what the folks in Colombia need. We are here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that before moving on to the next question. Thank you, Meda. I wanted to really dig a little bit deeper and talk about tools, you know, that we use when it comes to restorative communication. You know, I think Esteban hit on it a little bit about when it came to them being in spaces and not having grace, and understanding that grace is one of the tools that was needed in the moment to hold proper space, and not center, you know, their own needs. And I'm wondering, is there any tools that you automatically bring into the room? And I want to ask and bring some voices who haven't been able to exist just yet, with Jasminne and David and Yura Sapi on this subject.
So as a writer, I think that one of the tools, and it's kind of because I was going to address the other question too about the harms that I've done, and I can maybe kind of do both here. But one of the tools that I think that I bring in is I'm just hyper aware of the language that is used in a space. And so if nothing else, I try to correct my own language and the terminology and the phrases, or the ways in which I describe certain situations, or traumas or problematic isms, right? When we go into a space, and I try to fix it in my own language and in the way that I speak, in an effort that other folks will also begin to be aware that this is what I'm doing, and they'll hopefully pick up on it, or I call it out, right? And one of those in particular, I think for me, is in this idea, and I've talked a lot about it with my poetry friends, about the Black body, and removing that language from my vocabulary, because it is another way in which we cause harm and in which we dehumanize Black people from the diaspora. And so something that seems so minor, and that is so widely used in sort of these art circles and literary circles, of the Black body and the Black body, and it's like, no, but these are human beings. They are people. And I think that something like that, and bringing, just again, my background is being so aware and knowing how important language is, obviously, to communication, and being so intentional about the words that are used when I enter a space, and when we enter a space, in order to communicate what needs to be communicated, and in order to reduce the harm that that can be inflicted on others, I think is really important as well. And I think another thing that I've
been trying to be more intentional about bringing into the space and into my own writing and into the theater and into the work, is, which may seem controversial or anti whatever, but less focus on trauma, because you don't want to commodify it and you don't want it to be trauma porn, and you want to not say, I want to do this play because it shows the suffering of Black people, of Latine people, of the immigrant. It's like, but we're not just our traumas. Like, we experience joy and love and pleasure and sex and like all the good things, and give me a freaking mango any day. Like, I just want to bite this. Like, let me just show me that on stage. That is a performance, me enjoying a pinche mango. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let me dance merengue. Let me like sweat in like love and joy and pleasure. And I think that so often, so much of like the conversations and the things that these, you know, theaters want to do and these institutions want to do, and it's just like, well, how can we be sure that we are aware of your suffering? Like, bro, like, be aware of my joy. Like, I'm a full human person, and like, let's talk about that and let's bring that into the room. And so, you know, I think one of the harms that I did with one of the earlier, you know, versions of City Without Altar was like, it was all focused on trauma. And I was like, no, like this, there is joy and there is love and there is family and there are relationships and moms and dads and birth and life, and a celebration of all of that needs to be there. And I think that I think, you know, I try to I'm much more intentional to bring that into a room and into a space, when I, you know, when we're talking about anything, right? And even if I'm not in a good mood, right? Like, I'm be like, no, I'm grateful for X, Y, and Z, right? And just trying to bring that into how we talk about our experiences, and our stories and our narratives. Our narratives are not just our traumas, and that itself is like traumatic, like, right? To keep hashing it out and talking about it and focusing on it and only writing stories about that, like, I'm not into doing that to myself anymore, you know. And I want other folks to also just be more intentional about that part of it.
Oh, that's so good. Yes, absolutely. Because I'm telling you, if another predominantly white institution does another freaking slave play, it's like, again, oh, we're going to relive this again. Now I got to relive it again. No. I'll be quiet now. David, Yura, Sapi.
Yeah, no, I love, Jasmine, what you said about joy. I think that that's something that I tried to lead with as much as possible. And I recognized early on when I was starting out that it was something that people looked at as a negative trait. Like, I had a teacher once be like, oh my God, you're actually talented. I thought you were just like the fun one, you know? And like, I had a director once be like, I came to watch you fuck up. And like, because like, how could someone so friendly and social be like talented? And I didn't understand that at all. But I think there's this idea of this sort of like brooding director and this sort of like, gotta make the good work. And it's gotta be like, we've gotta work hard and we've gotta, you know, and these ideas. And I definitely perpetuated so much of that early on. And that like, you know, we've gotta make it great and we've gotta make it this. And especially when you're working on work that is emotionally intense, it's like, we've gotta like dig into those wounds and like rip you open and like put that rawness on stage, you know. And I just feel like one thing that I've really learned is that my joy is my strength. You know, I really like fucked up plays. Like, I really like fucked up plays. But what I've recognized is that the fucked up plays that I love don't stop there. They don't stop at the trauma. They continue. They move us into healing. They move us into coming together, into not necessarily providing solutions, because I don't think that there are like solutions, but like they don't stop there. They don't stop at the wound. They look at the wound and then they allow for the next, you know, the light to come in. There's a Rumi quote that I sort of semi-quoted there. But I think about joy, and I think about like leading a room, and especially when you're working with a material that's heavy, is like trying to create a light and joyful space that makes people feel safe. And I think for me, one thing that I really, you know, in my whole life, I feel like I have never been able to bring all of the parts of myself into a room, as a child, as a student, as a lot of things, even in a relationship. Like there's so many parts of myself that I was not taught to love. And I think this is been a year of really looking to that journey of self-love and looking to love those things about me that are beautiful and that I've always thought I've had shame about, or sort of, the places where I've harmed, the places where I've fucked up, and I've focused on it a little too much in the kind of like self-flagellating way, and really looking to find that self-love and that forgiveness and that like being able to love myself so that I can lead with that love, and welcoming people into a space with all of them, like their wholeness, their complete wholeness. This isn't like, check your trauma at the door, check your shit at the door. This is really like, bring all of yourself into a room, because we are only as good as the sum of all of our parts, and I was educated in Florida, so I'm not that smart. So that's a fact, number 49 in the country. But I really believe in the power of collective intelligence. I really believe in collaboration. And I don't think I always did. I think that like early on I was like, I believe in collaboration, but I'm the director and I'm right. And now I'm like, I have a couple of ideas. This is what I know is true. This is what I don't know. And this is what I want to find out more. And that curiosity, I think that curiosity, and not just a curiosity that's transactional, but a curiosity that is really relational. It's like, how are we getting to know each other? And like, we don't know all of everyone's traumas. We don't know the things that we might do. We don't know the places in which we might step on someone accidentally. And for me, it's about, when I hear that I have caused harm, is listening and understanding. And like, again, to quote what I learned at Radio Caña Negra is ubícate, is like to locate myself, to locate where I came into a situation, where someone else is coming into a situation, and to really take that time to reflect on it. I remember I had this amazing, brilliant director, assistant, Garrett Allen. They're incredible artist. I look up to them so much. And they were my assistant on my first show, first big show at a PWI. And I was just trying so hard to like do the thing that I thought I was supposed to do. And like, again, like make myself small, but take up space, and like be the director. And like, at one point they kind of jokingly said, they were like, your misogyny is showing. And I was like, I am queer. I was raised by women. I am not a misogynist. I got into this whole thing, and I was talking to Alex, who I've known since I was 13. And she was like, you're fighting something, and the reason you're fighting it is because maybe there are parts of it you need to look into. And for me, it's been like this incredible journey from when this assistant called me out, semi-jokingly, but like in a way that actually put me on this path towards really understanding the ways in which I've internalized parts of our society that have been fed to us. It is the water that we swim in, the air that we breathe, and how we're internalizing it. And that work of that self-healing, that self-unlearning, in order to create those new paradigms, to build the world that we want to see. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm on my journey, as we all are. And it's like, how can we lean into our own journeys, come together, and move forward with compassion, with grace, and with joy, and have a hell of a time doing it. So I don't know if that's tools, but.
No, you gave so many tools. So many.
I was like, that's a list.
Living it, loving it. You got in grace, you got in joy, you got in all the things. And thank you for naming that time. I have to say that time was really transformational for you, and the growth since then has just been incredible. It's been a real privilege to see it. I had another point I wanted to make, but it's okay. I'm gonna pass it on. Yura, Sapi, do you have something to add here?
Yes, thank you all so much. I'm definitely resonating with what you're all saying, especially with David, in terms of, we don't want to cause harm. I don't want to cause harm, but I know I will. And for me, it's about the response after knowing I've caused harm or causing the harm, or finding out. And in that is how we're changing the ways in which the oppressor communities are showing up, like I think about it in my circles that I'm in, where we're changing the world. We're trying to create different ways of working together. And so when a conflict happens within our community, within us, it's really about, how do we resolve this? How do we transform this so that it doesn't end up being, how can we expect the world around us to do something different if we can't do it ourselves within? So for me, it's been a journey. It's been a quest. I've been on a quest to find these tools. And I actually have a podcast that specifically looks into them. So I'm interviewing other founders of color in the US of arts organizations, finding out ways in which we're not replicating that same white supremacy and supremacy culture that we wanted to get away from within the organizations that we're creating. And yes, Miranda, you as well, learned so much from you. David and Alex, are part of those founders, I would say, that I would have on the podcast as well, but haven't had a chance to yet. And Jasminne, Esteban, and Sean, hopefully, will get more acquainted with you as time goes on as well. I'm sure you have a lot of information on this topic as well. And so, we're talking about different kinds of tools. So I will just recommend, check it out. It's called the Building Our Own Tables podcast on HowlRound, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of these things, talking about things like abundance over scarcity, saying no, honoring, celebrating, centering elders, all kinds of tools that different founders are using. And then what I would say in this idea of, we're going to cause harm, like I will cause harm, accountability pods are super helpful and have been. And so this is a transformative justice tool. Mia Mingus and the Bay Area Transformative Justice Center has resources on this idea of accountability pods and pod mapping. So the people that you talk to when you have caused harm and when you experience harm. And sometimes those people can be the same, sometimes they can be different. But these recently, especially in the last, say month or two, different moments in which I've caused harm and being able to have people to talk through or experience harm. And then the other thing too, I think for me, it's really been about taking the work offline. Adrienne Marie Brown's latest book, We Will Not Cancel Us, talks a lot about how, this online activism that we've kind of experienced a boom in this past year in the pandemic has also caused a lot of our ways in which we're calling each other out. Cancel culture has come into play. And so really looking into also how the online world and social media kind of plays into effect. So I've been really taking things offline and getting off social media more so, finding ways in which my community is not being served there. And then being able to have conversations with people one-on-one when there is a problem, being able to say like, this Adrienne Marie Brown, we will not cancel us. It's about you and me, our relationship, not about the rest of the world. Like, let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about how, your action harmed me. This is why. Keeping it, direct and honest and truthful and also, speaking from my own experience. So I think someone else was talking about the language we use, right? So just offering those tools there, folks.
No, laying it down, laying the frameworks down. Deep appreciation. Everybody check out that podcast. We'll make sure to drop a link. Sean, I know we're losing you in a couple of minutes, so I do want to circle back with a final question to you. And I'd actually love David to then also follow up. I'm going to ask it from a little bit of an institutional perspective. Both of you are independent artists, but you also have organizations. And when we talk about harm there, it's a little bit of a different scaffold. It's a little bit of a different experience. Yeah, so I'd love to dig into that a little bit. But David, you started bringing us into the world of imagination. So, I'm gonna pick that up and I'm gonna take it further. One of my favorite artists, Residente, he talks about skies beyond skies. How are you expanding your imagination at any stage in your career? How are you doing it for your organization? How are you doing it for yourself? When I think about cancel culture, very related. How can we imagine a new way of interacting? And lastly, before I let you answer that question, millennials, get used to calling on the phone. We are so used to letting the use of Facebook that wants to promote the fights only. It wants to show us the bad things, right? This is a tool. It's using us. And we're thinking that there's more harm and tension than before, but maybe it's just showing it to us in a new way. So how can we imagine a new way of communication? So Sean, can you talk a little bit about that before we let you go? And then I want to toss it to David again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Man, this is so fulfilling. I feel full. This is beautiful. And I'll also say, to be a shady motherfucker, that it's so much fuller and realer than these other things where we convene and it costs so much money to get people to convene and come together. And it's just talking heads on a subject they have talked about for 25 years. Whereas here, I'm coming away with shit in the first 2 introductions, like shit that I want to implement. Everyone's opening my mind. So thank you for that. And I mean, for me, in terms of space, it's having space, first of all. But in a lot of ways, I imagine how we do it new is mostly, for me, is we do it with old aesthetics. And that is to say, and it might be new because so many of these institutions have created this structure that is just a fallacy. Everything from season subscription to, the word season, to the word subscriber, to the word lobby, to the word play. All these things they're made up before our times. They're made up with not just words, but with definitions they're not even applicable to us. And they're created in a way that say, well, if you know it, you know it. And if you don't know it, you'll have to learn it. But the only way to learn it is to come to the place where we learn it. And only certain people can learn it. Fuck that, If you have got an open mind, you're curious, if you're digging in, you got imagination, then do it. And what we're talking about is convenings, communings, collaborating. So that's open to everyone. It's the most popular shit in the world. So how can we create this institutional thinking around it? It's mierda, man. It's just bullshit. And it's a little game that they play that they think we don't understand. But for those of us, any of us that do like performance work, theater work, it's a grind. And you have to be an imaginative motherfucker who knows how to create things. So once you get to the place where you have a space or you're afforded a budget, that shit is just, that's some just add water shit. That's the extras, you know what I mean? Like that's the extra gloss, the extra, shine on your shit, But the essence of the thing is always going to remain the same, power of it. So I say all that long ass answer to say, like, I'm about condensing the essential powers of it, which is about creating space for people and opening up space and centering people again, because that's the root of the whole thing. And so it's always like, how do you get new audiences? How do you get new formats? Well, you let the people decide that. You let our world dictate that. We got to be the ones that look through the mirror a little bit better at it. And so how are we going to reflect our world? How does that window, work both ways more? It's not, I don't have a great toolbook other than a more essential one. It's like, if you open up the doors, you let enough people in, you listen to people enough, you're going to know what needs to be attempted to be reflected. And the great maddening thing about it all too is like, the world is evolving. Babies, we're never going to catch up. Come on, children, we ain't catching up. So if we have this energy and imagination about us, is like, we're just pushing forward. We're not trying to perfect nothing. You know what I mean? And we've also created like this myth about theater, like this is the perfect play. This is the perfect production. Well, you want some bullshit. You want some old shit. You want some museum shit. That's not perfect to me. That's stale and dead and already been walked through and learned and seen. And I could rent that shit. But when I want to come to something live, when I want to feel an energy from another human being that I know or don't know, then that's when I have to get in my, my place, open, my face in the place too. And so I think if we're using these new formats, whether it's more video, more filming, more online, we have to do it with the basic essential tools. How are we going to find a way to capture live energy on film in a way? How are we going to find a way that makes performative film interesting for the audience interaction of it? Because I'm not trying to stay at home. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be in a room with people. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get my shit blown open by other people. And I think there's only, why are we trying to perfect these other people's formats anyway? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's do our shit. Our shit is LIVE, live. So let's do that. But, the key to it, though, is like, who gets the mic? Who gets the mic? And I'm all for passing the mic.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know we got to let you go, but thank you for your participation so far, your words of wisdom and your energy. I can't wait to be in a room with you again. So looking
I'm not
forward
trying
to
to leave before David speaks, though. I'm trying to steal all David's
All right.
shit. Please.
All right. Do it, David.
Yes, I think, can you repeat the question? I was like just listening to you, Sean, and then I was like, I don't even know what the question is anymore.
Who cares? But it was about skies beyond. What are the skies beyond skies for you, David? What do you imagine?
Yeah.
Beyond?
I think that I am really leaning into my queerness, not only in a sexuality, but in my curiosity for everything, in my questioning of everything. And I think what, Sean, you were talking about is like there's a lot of this like presumption of like how things are done. And one of the things that I'm really fascinated with is like being that little kid that's always like, why is it always done this way? And the answer is there's usually never an answer. It's like, because it's easy, because it's cheap, because we're lazy, because we don't have to think beyond. And I think that's been, I run with 4 other artists, the Movement Theater Company, Deidre Harrington, Eric Lockley, Taylor Reynolds, Ryan Dobrin, and I also want to call in Jonathan McCrory, Christia Milda Correa, Jerry Nicole Love, and Ashley Jones, who are part of building this organization, this movement. And one of the things, when we started, we always say that our original sin was forming a theater company, because I don't think anyone really wanted to form a company. And, but it was what we were supposed to do. You go to school, you're taught to form a theater company, and then you're taught you need to get an artistic director and you need an executive director, and here's the paperwork and this is what you do, and so we sort of did that, and it was so toxic. And in terms of the harm that happened inside of our organization, I would say that so much of the harm happened early on, where there were these expectations placed on us in these administrative capacities that we were making up, and we were just trying to create work for ourselves and for our community where we could be joyful and we could like live outside of the boxes that the industry and society was putting us in. And we didn't even realize that we were putting ourselves in these boxes. And it was really through a program that we were participating in, Theaters Without Change, that we had a consultant who really taught us to liberate ourselves with our own language, how we can self-actualize as an organization. And so we scrapped these titles, these archaic ideas of what we were supposed to do. And now we all run the company collectively as a producing artistic leadership team, and really honoring that we are all producers, we're all artists, we're all leaders, and we're a team. And that kind of collective work, again, collective intelligence, that collective based work, that challenging, even when we were applying for our like 501c3 status, like we pushed back at all of it. Like we took forever to do it. And then we were like, okay, we decided because we wanted to, we were going to. But in all of it, we've pushed back on like, you can only list one person. Well, we're listing 5. You can only, have so-and-so. Well, we're going to do 5. Well, we're going to do it like this. Well, thank you for this. I know that this is how you've always done it, but this moment that we're in together in partnerships, in producing, in working with new artists, people will be like, so how do you do things? And it's like, that's what we're here to figure it out together. And I think that curiosity, that like really questioning the why things are done and how we've always done it this way. Like that's like the most dangerous thing in the entire world, I think, in the American theater, is that just belief. It just limits the imagination. And I'm like, I want to be that kid. Like, aren't we all just like children playing with our toys and like making up imaginary worlds? Like, let's be real. Like, that's what we do. We play make believe, and we imagine the world that we want to be in, and we imagine beyond what we know. Even when you're doing realism, it's like you're still imagining beyond what we know, and I think that for me, it's like, and in order to do that, you have to show up to that with that same hunger, that same curiosity, that same desire to question everything, down to like, why are we inviting people? Do you know what I mean? Why are we selling it? Why is there a ticket price? Why is there why do they have to come here? Why can't we go there? And I think about like the early days of the movement, where it's like we were building an audience, and so much of our tactics were like going out and again meeting people, going to see what people were doing, what people wanted, and in that building relationships, that then people started coming, and then the work started happening. And it was like, we had people be like, that's not how you do it. And we're like, well, this is how we did it. And now you want our lists. So there you go. Where's my check? Do you know? So I don't know. Yeah, I just think in terms of that, Residente and Skies Beyond Skies, it's like your imagination, like what you can create in your imagination is far beyond anything that we understand or know or experience. And like, why not try in every day to push beyond what we know? Because like we've all lived what we know, and it's not that cute. Do you know what I mean? So like, what can we be beyond that? And how can we do what we do beyond what we've known? Because what we've known hasn't been working. Do you know? So I think especially now, as like we're thinking about this sort of reemergence, it's like, what are we remerging into, and how can we push this beyond anything that we've ever imagined it could be?
Oh my good. Yes, 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 yes. And you brought up so many points for me that a part of me is like making me wish that we could all convene and meet together in just a room, and like just talk about this, because we were talking about, harm in the beginning of the movement and what that looks like. Bye, Sean. It was so nice to meet you. And I like, woof, right? I was a part of an ensemble, and the way that we started in the beginning of a conversation of what it even meant to be a Latina, right? Like nationalism came into play, right? A lot of perpetuation. You had folks who were a part of very large conservatories, which is where white supremacy culture really is like embedded, rooted, all of that. And then you had, right, I didn't go to a conservatory, so I was the disruptor a lot of the times, right? And that was not appreciated, at all. And shut down in a lot of spaces. And that, which brings me to like my next question about forgiveness, because we're talking about harm here. We're talking about reducing harm. And I had to go through my own journey of forgiving the person who caused me the most harm to myself, right? And not actually having that conversation with that person. And I want to talk about like what happens, like what does that journey look like when you've been harmed? And, do you make space for forgiveness? Is it something that you're still working on as individuals when you yourself have experienced trauma? I'm getting super deep here. But I want us to, I just want us as a group to be vulnerable, because I want to echo what Sean said, you know, about like how we go into these convenings and we convene with one another and we do the best performance of professionalism ever, you know, and we're so fake, even among ourselves in the theater industry. And I'm just tired of it, honey. Like, ya se pasó. Yeah, I can't. I can only take real people from here on out. And I can only take reciprocal relationships. That's a part of my standing and my power, you know, as an individual and human being. I'm like, I can't. I need reciprocity. You know, I can't do this all fakeness. Oh, hi. No. Yeah. Se acabó. Yeah. We're on a different journey. You know, so anybody, this is anybody. I'm just going to open it up.
I'll chime in here and just sort of share sort of a small part of my theater journey, because I was like, I was on my way to Broadway, like in my head. I did theater since I was in middle school. I did high school theater. I did college theater, and then I went out and started doing, you know, community theater here in Houston. And then I got diagnosed with chronic illness, but I taught theater full time at a middle school and then at a high school. And eventually I thought, like, New York, Broadway dreams. I was going to be the Lin-Manuel Miranda. I was going to win the Tonys. I was going to do all the things. And theater was probably my biggest heartbreak that I've ever experienced in my life. Theater, and it's just something that, this is sort of a realization that I just recently had, that it was a heartbreak. That the American theater broke my heart and broke my spirit and broke me down to the point that, on top of dealing with chronic illness and being, you know, loaded down with that, it was difficult to do theater, you know, physically, because it's very demanding. But I left. I abandoned all of my theater dreams and completely left the theater scene for over a decade. I only recently came back, in part with this play, a year before I started writing this play, and didn't expect to write this play, because the Houston theater scene was so hostile towards me. And it's taken me, I'm still in the process of forgiveness. I've only worked with one theater here in town, since my reemergence back into the theater scene, in the last 3 years or so. But I was incredibly, just brokenhearted and disappointed. And it was a dream that that, like the Langston Hughes poem, does it stink like rotten meat? Does it explode? You know, what happens to a dream deferred? And I think it did all of those things for me over the last 10 years. And I'm also just now sort of reconciling with and healing the traumas inflicted onto me by my high school theater directors, which I think is something we don't talk about enough. The ways in which, at the young age, at the level we're really formative, the power that high school drama directors have, and the ways in which they yield that power and cause so much harm to our young high school theater students, which can make or break their dreams and their spirit, which it did for me, but it's something that I think I suppressed for so long. And I'm just now realizing, like, that was some fucked up shit them folks did to me. Like, wow, y'all really messed up. You really messed me up. To make me really believe that, like, that I was so talented, but there was no way I was ever going to get X, Y, and Z part. There was no way I was ever going to get to X and Y, Z level. But sort of that gaslighting in the way, right? Like, oh, you're so talented, and yet, like, I'm standing there and I'm like, but y'all don't cast me like on shit ever. I don't understand. Like, what is all of this you're feeding me in my head, and then but your actions are saying something different. And so I'm still, you know, on that journey of forgiveness. I am still very slowly treading back into the world of theater, and even into, you know, these spaces that are like, oh, Latinx theater this and Latinx theater festival that, and we're a Latinx theater this. And I'm like, but what about Black Latinos? Because y'all know y'all fucked up. y'all know when you say that, you don't mean me. You're not looking for me. You know, when you put out a casting call and you say 35-year-old, you know, Latina, you're not asking for me. I'm aware of that. You know, things are slowly changing, but so much of what I've experienced in the theatrical world, just here at the local level in Houston, you know, I left because of that, because I would show up to auditions and get side-eye looks, you know, or because folks weren't producing what I call, you know, they were producing these pre-emancipation plays, as I like to call them. Like, if you're doing stuff from like pre-1960s, like there ain't no roles for me, or I'm going to be the nanny, or I'm going to be the help, or, you know, whatever it is. And you know, and so I was disillusioned for a very long time, and I'm still treading very cautiously. And I'm also very kind of like, are you just, you know, calling on me because you're tokenizing? You know, there's always that sort of voice in the back of your head. Like, am I only here because you need somebody who looks like me to say that you did the thing for people like me? And so constantly questioning that. And like you said, Miranda, like I'm here for reciprocity. And like, I'm also leaning into saying no to things and people that do not serve me. And, you know, not just being grateful, but saying like, this is what I'm worth. I have 2 advanced degrees. I have X amount of years of experience. I am talented. I know my shit. You will pay me what I'm worth. If we're gonna live in this capitalist society, then you need to, like, I'm gonna eat, and I'm gonna eat well. Like, I'm not gonna eat, you know, like I'm gonna eat well. And so really just like being firm in that power, and also just kind of, you know, being aware of like, what are your intentions for bringing me into this space? And if I make you uncomfortable, like, are you just going to then label me this angry Black woman or this spicy Latina and then never call me back? Or what, are we going to have these conversations, or what am I actually able to create what I want to create? You know, without sort of then this other stuff that might come with it if I don't do it in the way that you expect me to, right? And it's still a journey. It's still something I'm working through, and I'm still, you know, figuring it out. And I don't, you know, I'm here with this play and in this process as a playwright. This is a new role for me as a playwright. And I don't know that I will make it on stage anytime soon. I think that's where the biggest heartache has been. I think as a playwright and as a director, I feel a sense, of power and control. And I like that. And I feel like at this moment where I'm at, that's what I need. And I don't know if I'm ready to, you know, be on the stage in a role for somebody else. And so we'll see. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that question Miranda posed is still on the floor. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'm feeling like, yes, I was just saying that, you know, I feel like I'm healing from the oppressor that is the United States, and I haven't forgiven the United States. One, not being in the US right now, and haven't been for over a year. And so, and then also like very specific realizations and things that people have told me, you know, that let me know that actually there's a lot of capitalistic tendencies in so much of who I am and what I do just because of growing up in the US. And, you know, things that I see in all of you here, you know, like in all of the people from the US that I talk to, but knowing that actually it was a trauma to grow up in the US and grow up with capitalism the way that it was taught to me, and that it's not normal here to think certain ways, and the amount of productivity connected to our self-worth, not valuing, you know, eating, just all kinds of like eating meals, taking a moment to sit and eat the meal with other people, and just so many things that have been shown to me. And so, yeah, I'm trying to live the life now, the reciprocity life that you're talking about, Miranda, too, you know, working with projects here that are very local, still artistic, you know, still valid, but maybe considered folk, traditional, or super niche, but actually, you know, not trying to value these big organizations $1 million over these projects that are actually like in the community. Like this week there's a whole planning happening around me for a festival that is happening to try to stimulate some of the economy here and also gather some artists and music here. And so, yeah, I think overall that's what I'm kind of thinking about in terms of what does it mean to actually be forgiving colonization, and I don't know that I can really do that. I think it does feel like the transformation, right? The transformative justice in knowing that we have to change the systems that are causing these harms to happen. And it's not just small, impact one-time things. They're really coming from much larger scale traumas intergenerationally. And so healing that for myself first, and thinking intergenerationally my own lineage, and then expanding and showing that out into others, really looking to attract what it is that I'm putting out.
I want to thank everyone just for a moment, because I really do think that you all have been super vulnerable with where it is that you're at. And I think that for me personally, I always feel like that is how we ground healing. How honest are we going to be with ourselves? How honest are we going to say, like, yeah, I fucked up, right? We talk about normalizing mistakes, when we're in rooms, but then we really don't honor that, and it is just an ongoing, it is a journey. It is a journey. And I've literally learned forgiveness through the time is really something that's meant for my soul, rather than that's meant for like everyone else but me, and it's been a pathway for me to grace, because if not, then I'm just closing myself off, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, especially if we're talking about transformative work and we're talking about being in decolonized spaces. So I just wanted to put that out there and want to talk also and look to the group to answer Olga's question, which is, what is our utopia?
Brilliant. Yeah, Esteban, I just want to name, we have about 4 minutes, and I'd love to hear from
No,
each
4
of you.
minutes.
So Esteban, please take it away.
I think one thing that we have as a benefit, when we were earlier listing all the tools that we have to use for dealing with these traumas, additionally, we have this spirit, and I don't want to define ourselves or name ourselves in relation to the colonizer, but what we've seen in this country is a culture that is morally and spiritually bankrupt. The principles of the underdog and the triumph over evil and the triumph of the human spirit, which used to be iconic American, are now morphed into and bastardized into the virtues of me, mine, now, more. But that's not us. That's them. And like I said, I don't want to start with that paradigm, only to show and illuminate that has never been the paradigm of Black and Brown communities. We've been communities from jump. And if there's a little nena who's out, and runs into traffic, it doesn't matter if it's my baby, I'm going to grab her, I'm going to take her to Miranda's house and be like, Mira, she was about to get killed. Go take care of her.
Be my kid.
Mira, because they're all our children. They're all our children. The American ideal has been morphed into the ladder mentality, where only one person can get up at a time and you have to step on other people to get there. But our community gives us something else. And what we have that's greater is this spirit. So as we move into these marketing meetings and these numbers meetings and all these other things, the gift and the grace that we have, and I'll throw into the tool pile as well, is that we have our spirit to come from, that we can come from a spiritual place, that we are in direct dialogue with the ancestors as well as the future. And we also have that responsibility to both. So as we speak through the spirit and let the spirit and love guide us through that prism, that is our utopia, that we let that principle guide us throughout everything, and that we can use a spirit in a boardroom meeting. Okay, as the out.
Beautiful. Keep it moving. Who else would like to speak to that in our final few minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything, Esteban, everything that they said is yes. Screw the ladder and screw stepping on people. I don't know if this necessarily answers the question This is what I'm going to say. um, I think in terms of this forgiveness journey, so much of what I've learned over the last year is that I can't control how others may or may not forgive me for any harm I've caused. But what I can do is recognize the harm that I've done, find a way to forgive myself, and lean into the transformative part of transformative justice, which is that real change. It's like really getting to the root of where that harm comes from. And so much of it, I have found, as I've said, comes from a lack of self-love. Leaning into that, pouring more love into myself in ways that really give me the personal strength and grace for myself to change so that I don't continue to perpetuate that harm. And that in that, I know that I am taking those steps to build a world that I want to live in, which is a world in which we all have those tools to love ourselves from the root up. And to, I think, go back to what Esteban, what they said at the very beginning is like, lead with love, and that love is an action and it is a choice, and it is something that we have to choose to do. It is not an idea. It is not stagnant. And so I think, as I think about this idea of like, what is a utopia that I have is a world in which, you know, we are truly liberated from those oppressive ideas that are fed to us. And I think that starts with, leaning into that self-love and yeah. I don't know what else to say besides that, you know, so.
No, I think it's perfect. Listen, Carol McCord tells us no shame, no blame, no guilt, no bullshit. That's the stuff that will keep us from loving ourselves. Mia Mingus talks about accountability, not as the forgiveness of others, like Esteban was talking, right? It's about how are you forgiving you, and how do you need to love you harder.
And also in Vogue says, free your mind. So I just want to.
Whitney Houston, that shit. The greatest love of all my life. I got.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, Yura, Sapi, any final thoughts? Hopefully we get Jasminne back, and if not, that's okay.
Wanting to uplift the invitation to envision and manifest our ideal futures. All of the possibilities are possible. All of the possibilities in the future are possible. And I know for me, it's been incredible learning to be able to lean into that and know that and decide and you know, make it happen. Know what it is that I would like for my life and for the people around me and for the world around me, and make decisions that are bringing me closer to that. And as artists, you know, we're, like David was saying, we have so much of our time is spent in these imaginative or not always right here in this moment mindsets. And so we are cultivating that within ourselves and sharing that with others. And so to me, I think we need more storytelling that isn't so apocalyptic and so inviting of the worst case scenario. And so welcoming and inviting folks to do that and to envision and manifest our ideal futures. Thank you all for being here, Miranda and Alex, for hosting this awesome day together. Thank you.
Delicious. Thank you. Jasminne, I'd love to give you the last 30 seconds, and Miranda, you will close us out.
Yes, sorry, I don't know what my computer just conked out on me, so I missed things that were said. But I guess in answer to the last question that I heard, which was regard to utopia and sort of piggybacking off of some of the things that have already been said, my utopia like in the theatrical world, in the arts world, in the world in general, is going back to something that Sean said with regard to passing the mic. I want us to be able to empower every single person in our community to be able to tell their stories. That's literally all I ever want to do with anything. And whether that is we create story jam sessions where we just have a mic and we tell the community, or we go out into the community and we break this notion of what is theater and what is storytelling. And I say this as a writer, but I say this as someone who has tias and in-laws who are completely illiterate, but they will tell you so many stories out loud. Oral storytelling needs to come back into our communities, into our theater. We need to disrupt this idea that only the written word matters, that only the written word has value. Like literacy and storytelling and the ways that we express ourselves, we have song and dance, and our bodies tell stories, and we need to be able to allow ourselves to explore that. And my utopia is just a place where everyone has the power and the ability to tell their story, and I want more of that and more opportunities for that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jasminne. We have not shared many spaces together, but I'm so happy that our spaces have crossed with one another. I also really appreciate your husband, Lupe. So I just want you to know that you two are an amazing couple, and I love how you support and love each other, and I love watching your love. So, my heart goes out to the two of you. I hope to see you sometime soon through this vaccinated journey that everyone's going on. So thank you so much for being with us, and I cannot wait to catch your show later on tonight. Everyone, please, please, please come on in and watch City Without Altars. It is a beautiful piece that will blow your mind, and that will also do a great job of being able to resonate in a non-Eurocentric ass way, because we ain't doing that here. So thank you, Jasminne. And to close us out, oh yes, and it's 4:15 Pacific. I just want to say, as a central, because myself and Jasminne are in CST, we are not in Pacific. That would be a 6:15 CST time. And to close us out, it's one of my favorite quotes that I actually like to give folks that I don't have the exact verbiage, but this is my rendition, is that the hunter will always be the hero in the story until the lion begins to speak. And I always like to add, may the pen fall into the den sooner than later. So write your shit, everybody. Put it out there. There's enough for all of us. There's always been enough. There's always been enough. There is more than enough money. There is more than enough love. There is more than enough stories. There's a ton of audiences. And I just wanted to leave us with that as we move into our healing circles. So love to everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for gracing me with your presence. And that's all I've got.